change. It happens when you least expect it, but also when you embrace it. At Accenture, we help the world's biggest brands thrive through change. Our people combine technology and creativity, expertise and experience, learning and collaboration, passion and purpose to make a difference for our clients, their customers, our company, and our communities. Behind every great change is a great human. Bring your skills, your curiosity, and your true self to your work every day. Let's do incredible things. Let's deliver on the promise of technology and human ingenuity.
The world faces new challenges every day.
But with our curiosity and creativity,
Love for technology,
human ingenuity,
combined with our ever-learning working environment,
Accenture helps us develop our superpowers to be the drivers of change. Hi, I'm Wonder Ann.
I'm Captain Chester.
I'm Magnificent Davey.
I'm Detective Michelle.
I'm Amazing Vanessa.
and Mighty Jimmy.
My role aims to create a mindset using structured methodology to drive measurable, repeatable, and predictable delivery.
My duty consists of solving problems by utilizing existing technologies or building one for them.
I'm in charge of making sure that payment from the customers are received and allocated on time.
I identify business problems and opportunities that directly impact our customers using data-driven facts to derive insights and recommendations.
I help our clients save money and time by leveraging on their data.
I do programming to create and improve processes, and certainly make people more efficient in their processes.
Accenture developed an integrated model that enables 360-degree value creation. It gives the advantage of insights from artificial intelligence and data science.
That enables me to think of ways to make sure that results are predictable.
Accenture is bold in revolutionizing the technology. Cloud adoption saves a huge amount of cost.
And it provides a lot of security for our business and our clients.
We develop automation tools to eliminate manual steps for teams to perform in their most optimal level.
Accenture was exposed with automation technologies while I led complex processes. So it feels like I'm making more journeys to create more Ironman in the process.
We are Accenture
Innovators.
Innovating
Solutions.
Is at the heart of change.
At the heart of every great change is a great human. Come help us create value with businesses everywhere.
It has been over a year into the pandemic, and our society is now more than accustomed to quarantine measures and physical distancing. In order to adapt to these new constraints, much of our social behavior has shifted from offline to online, resulting in an accelerated usage of digital technologies. Across all industries, from shopping and learning to working and dining, the most innovative companies have led the charge and guided our economy through this unprecedented crisis. Welcome to Thrive Through Change, a series of roundtable discussions, videos, podcasts, and articles from Rappler in partnership with Accenture in the Philippines. In this campaign, we explore how combining human creativity with the best of technology can help develop solutions to issues brought about by the pandemic. My name is Cheska Litancalao, and I will be your moderator for this special series. In this episode, we explore what it takes for a company to become an innovation leader during these extraordinary times. Joining us today on the panel are the following guests: Arvin Yason, Managing Director and Innovation Lead for Accenture Technology in the Philippines; Mitzi Luna, Managing Director for Accenture Operations in the Philippines, and Winsley Bangit, the Chief Customer Officer of GCash. Guys, first of all, hello. Thank you so much for joining us here today, and let's get this on the table. It's been a year under the pandemic. How has technology impacted your personal activities, lifestyle, and your mindset? Ladies first, Mitzi.
Thank you, Cheska, and hi everyone. Well, on a personal note, almost more than a year into the pandemic, right? I appreciate the time that I was able to substitute commuting to work with I think more meaningful activities that gave me more balance. So like I do more yoga and exercise now more regularly. I get more time to read and find creative ways to connect with family and friends. In terms of work, Accenture is deeply experienced in working virtually and already has deployed at scale in the normal course in our business collaboration, technologies, and infrastructure for remote working. While we did not anticipate a global pandemic, of course, the ability to trigger this digital adoption and then adapt for unprecedented situation is allowing us to move rapidly. Though for someone who was so used to working in the office for the last 15 years, when you have a buzzing production floor 24 by 7, transitioning to virtual operations was very challenging. We had to basically convert all of our practices virtually and really depend on collaboration tools like email, chat, video calls, but at the same time, still connect authentically with our people and our clients. It was not an easy first few months for sure, but with a combination of technology, creative thinking, and our truly human programs, it has also opened a lot of doors for new practices, which can open doors for new ways of working, like maybe a hybrid model in the post-COVID world. Starting from the strong foundation with digital at its core, we have maintained the smooth running of our platform-based businesses fully in the cloud and with the security and standards needed to be resilient in the future.
Thank you, Mitzi. And it's great that you mentioned that authentic connection because I feel like that is what we're all missing nowadays. And hopefully we get to form that authentic connection face to face again at some point soon. All right, let's hear from Arvin.
Yeah, thank you, Cheska. So again, personally, as the typical Metro Manila, no, I had to adjust my weekend patterns, especially my family is used to going to the mall on the weekends, doing our shopping, watching movies. No? So I would say the first few months, that was the most dramatic adjustment that we had to make. I am happy to see Winsley and the Gcash team here because actually their solution, their platform has really helped, at least around the shopping area. Yeah, it took a lot of adjustment. I know there was a lot of adjustments for everyone, no? But I think the behaviors even of my children, who I have 4 sons, no, they're all in school. I had to handhold them to actually go through the virtual learning process, and I'm lucky that my kids go to an international school. I can imagine the challenges, no, for most other people, most other parents, no, who may not be as who may not have the access to the technologies that we have also. But on the work front, like what Mitzi mentioned earlier, we're one of the most digitally enabled companies, and we work with the global clientele. So we've had the existing technologies and infrastructure to ensure that we can, or to help us actually transition to working virtually the first few months. We do have a strong culture of innovation as well, and I think it helped us in the first few months as well figure out the ways to use these technologies and to use some of the processes that we had to cobble together to make sure that we could continue to be productive and we could continue to serve our clients. No? Now, I think in terms of, again, the actual day-to-day operations, as Mitzi mentioned, we're used to work in a teaming environment, whether it's in technology or operations, we're used to working face-to-face. While our clients are not all in the Philippines, the reality is when we work together with our teams in the Philippines, it's almost always at arm's length, and you can have informal conversation. So we had to quickly figure out the first few months, like 3 aspects. The first one was we had to identify additional technologies. Even in my own team, in the Manila Innovation Hub, while we are early adopters of cutting edge technologies, the technology wasn't enough, at least the ones that we were using at the beginning of the pandemic. So we had to do a lot of experimentation, a lot of auditioning, and some cobbling together of various technologies to recreate, again, the collaborative aspect. Some of our work is actually face-to-face workshops with our clients. And leading to the second point, no, it's not just about the technologies, but also the methodologies. We had to change some of our processes. We usually use this process called design thinking, which is a form of brainstorming. And the process itself, a lot of it at the beginning is actually being in the same room, having informal conversations, putting post-its on the wall. And you can imagine now we're all working from home. How do you recreate that? So there was a lot of actually, again, figuring out how do we do this? And there was a realization also that as everyone is working from home, the day-long workshops that we used to schedule are no longer possible, which leads to the third point. No, we had to be adaptive in terms of the situations as the COVID waves went through the world. No, different locations around the world had different scenarios that they had to play around with. In certain places, people could go out. In certain places, people there were spikes, no, in cases, and people had to take care of family members. So we had to be sensitive to that as well. So we had to reformat a lot of our activities as well to really cater to the individual situation and be more human and humane, really, in the way we execute our roles.
Thank you so much, Arvin. And if I remember from the previous roundtable discussion with Sir Lito, it was all about being proactive in Accenture during the time of COVID-19. The way that the Accenture team put together the packages and just the approach to the entire pandemic and how the Accenture community could continue throughout this pandemic. It was amazing hearing about the way you guys handled this. So now, of course, we are going to hear from Winsley. Hi, Winsley.
Hi, Cheska. Thank you. Thank you. And of course, it's nice to hear the stories of Arvin and Mitzi. But for me also, personally, the big change is how things really needed to be done remotely nowadays, diba? From shopping for essentials or fulfilling your financial transactions, or even for learning and entertainment. Going digital and cashless is key. Personally, I am not a big e-commerce user before, but I myself, I needed to shift. I now regularly buy groceries and other essentials via G Life within the GCash app. But when it also comes to learning and entertainment, like webinars like and lectures like this are now more accessible online. So there are now more opportunities to learn, even for professionals like us. And also there are how-tos, diba? Are very easily accessible. How to cook, how to take care of your plants. I'm sure a lot of you guys have been becoming good home chefs, right? And the plantitas and plantitas out there. Again, there's still ways to cultivate your interests and hobbies, right? Even in this type of setup. And of course, our entertainment and media habits drastically changed. And now it has been taken over by Netflix, YouTube, TikTok even. But work-wise, things have been equally challenging, especially for us. I echo the experiences of Mitzi and Arvin, but things were a little bit extra on my end. I entered Mint last year in the middle of a pandemic. That I needed to lead a team, almost 100 people virtually, while the business is experiencing hyper growth. So again, I agree with what was mentioned earlier. We encountered the same challenges. There were overstretched roles that needed to keep up with the business growth. So again, we looked into solutions when it comes to work tools, proper work tools, proper restructuring of roles, proper office rules and mindsets needed to be set up to be able to work efficiently from home. But one of the critical items that we also encountered is the lack of social energy due to the work from home setup. This lack of physical proximity may lead to a feeling of detachment from the rest of the team. So one of the most important things that we needed to do is to make sure that employees feel that they're not alone, right? During the pandemic, even as we push through the work and push through the projects. So a lot of solutions on hand, really, when it comes to more frequent talks, more frequent town halls, fun virtual engagements. So again, these are things that we needed to do. And also, one critical item is the difficulty in strengthening purpose and culture from home. that is a big thing that we needed to face, because again, as the business is growing, we needed to onboard new talents, right? So it's harder to assimilate the culture and values of the company if you don't work together in an office setting. So again, lots of those engagement activities revolving around purpose and vision. And what's good about it is all of this has been enabled by technology. So of course it's hard, but of course we're making do with the help of technology.
Great points brought up by everyone, and I completely understand the social detachment, because for people it's so hard detaching yourself from, let's say, your bedroom is right here and your workspace is a little corner in the same room. Let's be real here. There are some people who just face the wall, and then that's where they do their meetings. That's where they talk to people, and it's harder to motivate yourself to just get up and start working, because normally you get up, you take a shower, you get dressed, you battle traffic, you head to the office, and that's your workspace. That's, you know, the end of the workday. Because once you leave the office and you come home, then you know that you can relax. But it's so different nowadays. And speaking of plantitos and plantitas, Arvin has a beautiful monstera behind him, and I wish I had the plant skills, but I am not as lucky. I am not as smart, so I'm gonna move on.
It's my wife's, Cheska. I don't. It's not. I won't take credit for it at this point. It's my wife's.
Right. So as we know, the crisis has affected millions of Filipinos. But if we were to look for the bright side of this, it has to be the accelerated use of technology. Innovations that seemed pretty far down the road are now being implemented into our society with great speed. Take digital payments, for example. Before the pandemic, the BSP was already pushing for a cash-light economy within the next few years. But in 2020 alone, person-to-person QR payments in the Philippines rose over 5,000%. One of the pioneers in paving that path in the Philippines is, of course, GCash, which is now a household name. You guys made it a little too easy for me to transfer money from my bank account to GCash and to send money to other people to pay for things that I order online. Winsley, what have you done? But I have to say thank you, because it has made life so much easier during the pandemic. But of course, we need to talk about how your company's services have evolved over the past year. Everyone uses GCash. What strides have you made to improve your solutions over the course of this crisis? And how have you catered them to meet your customers' most essential needs?
What's really fortunate was that GCash and its services was ready when people needed safe, real-time, convenient transactions, right? And I think one of the biggest thing that happened to us is that we've really grown as a community, not just a community of users, but the community of entrepreneurs, merchants. It's an entire ecosystem that really embraced GCash as a service. So before that, we only had 20 million users. In a little over a year, we've doubled that to almost 40. And now 40% of Filipinos now have registered to GCash. And because of that, we've become a trusted partner for their everyday needs. And we saw an increase in the usage of GCash beyond payments, right? And then again, it's all about also enabling businesses transform and adapt with the current pandemic situation with GCash. So it's good that we're also becoming a solution for them. And what's also interesting is that we've seen the emergence of what we call our brand advocates. These are communities online, individual users and merchants who are helping one another, right? Maybe troubleshooting in terms of services or looking for opportunities, maybe with or without GCash. And because of that, we're seeing really good promoters among the brand users. Now, I do believe that success of GCash is hinged on the experience. And when I say experience, it's about making things safe, making things convenient, and making things easy, especially when it comes to managing and transferring money. And transforming that experience from the way it's being done before, very manual, very cumbersome, we're doing it while making sure that we solve customer pain points. Now, definitely Gcash, we are continuously improving when it comes to our products and services. And we do that by making sure that we get the pulse of the market through data-driven analysis and, of course, very, very deep market insighting. And, of course, coming from that insighting, we've evolved various services. So, for example, we've recently launched our service called G Life. G Life is an e-commerce platform where any business actually could build within Gcash and make it their own storefronts. And also we've launched G Invest. And of course, it's coming from the insight that, you know what, customers are now more aware and wanted to take care of their finances more diligently. And that's how we've been doing it at Gcash.
Yes, you have made it a little too easy and a little too convenient, Winsley. Thank you. And of course, how about Accenture as a tech company? How did Accenture keep up with the evolving demand and usage of digital technologies? How are you able to ride the waves of change and build innovations that solve everyday problems brought about by the pandemic?
Okay, I'll take that question. So every year we publish our technology vision, where we identify emerging technology trends with the greatest potential impact on companies, on governments, and society in general. Now, the tech vision reports have been remarkably accurate before and even during and after the pandemic. No, quite frankly, the pandemic has simply hit a giant fast forward button to the future, and we believe the demand to innovate at unprecedented speeds and scale with rapid adoption is now more important. No? So the adoption of technologies such as cloud, artificial intelligence, blockchain, actually the pressure has increased because of the pandemic. The reality is, again, any company needs to be a technology company to be able to not just survive but thrive. So, for example, Wincy's story the Gcash story wouldn't have been possible without the cloud technologies being made available, not just to Gcash themselves, but also to the vendors who leverage the Gcash platform. Now, to us in Accenture, innovation is really a combination of human ingenuity and technology. So, the human aspect, we cannot eliminate that. That's actually the most important aspect. Now, having said that, when we talk about technologies, it's actually a combination of multiple technologies, from the more quote-unquote traditional mobile apps to more complex applications that combine multiple technologies, such as, again, having a mobile app that has an artificial intelligence component and a computer vision component, etc. The trick is to, again, the human aspect, at what Wincy said earlier also, no, it's important to actually design the solution so that it provides the great experience to the user. You can use the best technologies, but if you don't address the human problem, the human experience, then people will not use your solution also. Now, again, the key enabler is cloud technologies. And I think a lot of people maybe are not yet so familiar with cloud. No, I think the simplest explanation is you take the typical user these days, the typical music listener. When I was growing up back in college, the best way to listen to music was to actually have a digital music player, no, such as an iPod. Now, no one really owns an iPod. We all, most of us at least, use an online music service such as Spotify. And that's a great example of a cloud-based technology. You know, instead of having a physical device on your person or in your office, which will store the information and all of the content, it's actually hosted on the cloud, on essentially the internet, essentially. No? Now, I think the great thing is the proof points. No? Through the pandemic, even in the early days, Accenture, we've really been able to help our clients, because our main challenge was not just using technology for our employees and for ourselves, but to really help our clients survive initially the pandemic and then thrive during the pandemic. So there have been many great case studies in Accenture over the last year. You know, so for example, something as simple as a traditional store, what we call a brick and mortar store, the stores who didn't really have an e-commerce platform beforehand. We we accelerated their journey to the cloud so that they can actually have an online presence. And we're happy to say that a lot of our clients over the last year have actually made a transition to e-commerce, again, using cloud technologies. In another area naman, we work with public utilities companies. There's one in Europe who's a water services company. And their main challenge was during the pandemic, they couldn't send out their maintenance people to monitor the water lines, etc. No? So we actually are co-innovating a solution with them right now where they will use data and analytics. They'll use the data that we are capturing right now remotely to detect if there are water leaks. So their people don't actually have to go out anymore to the field. And again, it reduces the amount of exposure to COVID and other problems potentially. And lastly, in the early days of the pandemic, especially, we saw a tremendous uptick in artificial intelligence solutions, particularly with chatbots. Again, cloud providers have enabled even small companies to leverage AI technologies, again, including chatbots and other call center solutions to augment their capabilities, and to help them not just, again, survive, but thrive during the pandemic.
Thanks, Arvin. And I want to add a few more examples from, Accenture. While we're fortunate that majority of our employees are working from home and a lot of our processes are actually built to work from home, we do recognize the fact that there's work that can only be done on site, right? And we thought that it was our responsibility, having so much data and, with the power of data science and analytics, that we were able to create solutions for our clients to keep their on-field resources safe. So one example would be, like I said, right, by creating an algorithm through data science, we were able to create an optimal route for on-site resources of our clients, so that in the past, if we were dispatching 10 on-field resources to do site maintenance work in a data center, for example, now because of creating that optimal route powered by data science, we can now dispatch 50% less of those resources. And through that optimization and creating those guardrails, of course, we're essentially keeping their on-field resources safe. So that's I think one of my proudest achievements that my team has done this past couple of months. That it's not just innovation, but it's really innovation that's socially relevant, that's keeping people safe, but at the same time still getting the work at hand done.
The interesting thing about all these innovations is that they all make sense even in a world without the pandemic. And as Arvin mentioned earlier, it was as if we fast forwarded to a future where we finally address longstanding industrial issues, but also improve overall quality of life. And things are so different now in the workspace, in the sense that you remember those the memes. This meeting could have been an email, and now we've shifted to actual emails or video chats. This roundtable discussion is a perfect example of how technology has pushed forward. Back in the normal days, we would be shooting this in a studio, but now we're doing this from the comforts of our own homes, and it's just so different. There's so many crazy things that have happened in the past year that we didn't think would happen under normal circumstances. But with that said, how much these advanced technologies have become a part of our personal lives, another concern that has risen is data security. Our increased dependence on technology also makes us more vulnerable to cyber attacks. So let's first ask Winsley, what measures have you taken to ensure that GCash users' private information is protected?
Security of our users' accounts is our number one priority. And before anything else, actually, I would like to thank everyone, and of course, all of our users here, in terms of really trusting us with their hard-earned money. And because of that, it's really incumbent upon us to take care of this trust. So in fact, we have a platform partner that has world-class tools for risk and fraud detection and prevention. And this platform hosts over 1 billion accounts worldwide. So just to show how serious we were about this, just last year, we migrated to this new tech platform in the middle of a pandemic. And this is an A+ platform. It's proprietary of the Ant Group, one of our investors. And again, it has world-class tools of risk and fraud detection and prevention. And this assures us and across all the various fintech organizations that uses this platform that this is really a very, very secure platform. And besides that, actually, we've launched our enhanced security features like the biometrics login and the Gcash customer protect. So it means that you will not be held liable for unauthorized or failed transactions that you made from your account. And also, we will not get tired of reminding and educating our customers not to give your MPINs or OTPs. And we want to remind everyone that Gcash, as an organization and as a brand, will never ask for your MPINs outside the app or outside the official channels. And with this, we aim to educate. Actually, we aim to over educate and over communicate to our customers on our social channels, all of these security features and all of these reminders.
Thank you so much, Wincy. And of course, with Accenture being a tech company, how do you address security and ensure people, your clients and users, that they are safeguarded against unintended consequences of technology?
Yeah, at Accenture, we are firm in our resolve to embed responsible business to make a difference in how we operate as a company and how we support our people and how we innovate for our clients, and ultimately how we drive impactful change in our communities. No, in reality, responsible business is not a new idea for Accenture. We've always operated ethically, legally, and with the utmost integrity. We help our clients prepare, protect, detect, respond, and recover along all points of the security lifecycle.
Yeah, and just to really contextualize what Arvin has mentioned, right? So some interesting data points here. Last year, because the world has practically stayed home, according to Forbes, internet usage really spiked up by 70%. I mean, I personally have seen crash landing on you about 3 times. And I'm sure the challenge for parents is that while they're also working from home is to keep their kids entertained, right? And in most cases, for a lot of us, that's in the form of giving them tablets or a smartphone and the kids watching, say, a video or playing with an app. So it is our responsibility to work with the client to ensure that this content is absolutely safe from malicious content or any type of content that's trying to say collect personal information, right, from its end users. So what we did is that through our insights driven operations and deep domain knowledge, we were able to co-innovate with the client in terms of driving process changes to keep this harmful content at bay.
What Mitzi shared is a great example. No? Security, we always approach it as multi-layer. We apply it at different levels, from the network itself to the various components, talk about the databases, the front end, and everything in between. No? And more, we're actually using other technologies such as artificial intelligence to actually improve security in pretty much all of those components. One area in particular is what we call identity tracking. Is the person who's doing the transaction really the person who's authorized to do the transaction? And we actually leverage some algorithms to detect, no, is the person doing the usual transactions that they're doing or the usual actions. And if we detect that it's not the usual behavior, then that triggers actually a flag, no, that maybe something devious is happening already on that particular system. Now, I think another dimension of responsible business is what we call responsible AI. And I only bring it up because I also brought up the use of AI in terms of cybersecurity as well. We've been very passionate in Accenture about pushing responsible AI and removing the biases from AI because it can also affect many aspects of the experience and ultimately also cybersecurity. So, for example, a lot of these new platforms use bio-authentication. No? You have to take a picture of yourself, right, using your phone's camera and show your passport, for example. And again, the challenge is with some of the technologies used because they were not properly trained when the AI model was being built. They're actually failing because maybe because of darker skin tones that were accounted for in the current model. They're not as useful for a certain segment of the population. So in Accenture, we're very proactive about working with our clients to make sure that responsible AI is part of the solutions that we deploy, even for cybersecurity.
It has been an insightful and encouraging discussion so far. And now I'd like to turn to the future. By the time things are back to normal, when we can meet face to face and travel is possible, and we can finally have coffee with our friends and hug people, things will have massively changed. COVID-19 has forever changed the human experience. And with that said, I have to ask, how do you see technology continually playing a part in our everyday lives? How do we keep up the momentum of digital acceleration? So let's start with Winsley. How will Gcash continue to fuel digital acceleration beyond the pandemic?
Actually, we are looking at three things. We'll be focusing on these three things to ensure that digital acceleration for financial services continue beyond the pandemic. So I'll be talking about accessibility, affordability, and ensuring continuous education. So number one, we are making our products accessible. So gone are the days where you have to fill up long forms to apply for credit or purchase insurance. With Gcash, with just a few taps, you get to access our full suite of financial services. Second, our financial services are affordable. So sending money to 40 million Gcash users is free, and making money transfers is easy and affordable. With Gcash, you don't need a minimum balance to start saving. And with us, you can start investing for as low as 50 pesos or whatever money you can set aside. So we are removing the stigma that you need thousands or even millions of pesos or a financial manager to get access to savings, investments, or insurance, or even credit. And third, it's the extensive and impactful efforts we need to put in education. Financial literacy is key to getting Filipinos avail of our financial services. We make sure to over-educate on how they can benefit from our products. Also, we work on creating educational content with industry experts. So those who can communicate the financial concepts in a simpler and more understandable manner.
Thank you, Winsley. Let's hear from Arvin and Mitzi.
Yeah, COVID-19 is it's the largest global event and the largest challenge of our lifetimes. No, as such, it's changing human attitudes and behaviors today and even tomorrow for the next few years. No, it's really forcing organizations to respond. In the future, many things will continue to change. COVID-19 will change experiences of customers, of employees, of pretty much every individual. And we also think about how we will change as technologists, no? And how we're designing and building experiences. That's, again, will change rapidly over the next few months. We're seeing around the world, certain economies are opening up while other economies are continuing to see rise of cases, no? And there will be an asymmetry. And there are situations where an industry, a particular industry might be behaving differently in one country versus another country. And in 6 months, it might overturn also. So as technologists, we need to pay attention to what's happening across these different markets. We need to pay attention to the human experience, no? How these asymmetries can create opportunities for our clients and for their customers also. How we can leverage, again, the various technologies that are easier to use now, again, because of the cloud and other innovations. And as Wency said, no, I think a large part of it is, again, staying close to the users, no, and acknowledging what their needs are. I like his point about educating them because, again, there's a dramatic increase in the number of e-wallet users, not just in the Philippines but in the developing world, and there's an opportunity to really transform economies, no, because of this phenomenon also.
And to me, I think the pandemic has really proven that we can trust our people to deliver the same level of productivity and quality of output, no matter where they are in the world. This means that we can now really cast a wider net and truly tap into talent globally, right? With access to diverse talent, our insights, of course, become richer, deeper, and hyper-personalized if needed. What I also really uncovered is that there are efficient ways to innovate. I mean, gone are the days that we have to spend time planning for in-person brainstorming and post-it sessions. I mean, virtual design thinking sessions are just as effective and actually much easier to facilitate. And we believe that when you make the ideation process easier to facilitate, you can also essentially accelerate innovation and business outcomes. And lastly, we should also embrace the use of tools and technology that make our operations more touchless, like AI, or use of proactive solutions like intelligent IVRs in the contact center space, for example. These solutions really improve end-to-end customer journey, but also enables our people to do more complex work and allows them to move up the value chain.
Well, of course, we are looking forward to seeing these forward looking initiatives and steps from both Accenture and Gcash. And with that, we are reaching the end of this fruitful roundtable discussion. So, for each of our panelists, we would like to hear your last words on how we can continue to encourage people to be more creative and innovative so that they can thrive.
So first, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be with this panel. And fintech here in the Philippines is a very enticing space to be in right now, especially with the increased demand for digital financial services. So we are at the forefront of that innovation. Gcash has always focused its efforts on nation building and financial inclusion for all Filipinos. And we will continue to drive innovation by focusing on three things: purpose, passion, and people. Everything we do is anchored on purpose, making Filipinos' everyday lives better. This is the driving force of our organization. Passion for our customers. With everything we do, we always put our customers first. We understand that their needs are ever changing, so we push ourselves to learn fast and also to fail fast in order to deliver game-changing products and services. And lastly, it's our people. All the above won't work without the people who make it happen. We invest in our people through training and mentorship, and we make sure that they are in the best position to learn and succeed.
For all of us to try, we really need to embrace change now. And this is very much aligned to Accenture's brand, Let There Be Change, and to our purpose to deliver on the promise of technology and human ingenuity. As Winsley said earlier, innovation is not just about the technology, but also the people dimension. And we really, and any other company for that matter, if we want to continuously drive innovation, we have to combine those two aspects, the technology aspect and the human aspect. Now, while we've talked about how there's been an enormous amount of change already over the past year, in how we live and how we collaborate, how we work, reality is more changes are needed. Earlier, I shared about our Accenture Tech Vision. And this year's theme, Leaders Wanted, Masters of Change at the Moment of Truth, could not be more applicable today. Visionary leaders who use technology to master constant change and reinvent are best positioned to really ride the wave for the future. Various companies have come together to develop vaccines, manufacture medical devices, and so much more. And they were able to make these things happen, not just because they had the needed technology, but because they also had the skills and the mindsets to be able to provide a greater value to society. And again, it's not just true in the medical space. We've seen locally the changes in buying patterns. More people are conscious about buying local. And a lot of the solutions that Gcash and other partners have created have enabled a lot of these sellers who didn't have a market before to really come forward. And this is just in one particular space. We're seeing these dramatic changes across multiple industries. My ultimate advice, especially for business owners, is this: continue to embrace change and master change. Mastering change is going to be a key leadership attribute in this radically changing world. We need to prioritize technology innovation and use this opportunity to reimagine and to rebuild not only the future of business, but the entire human experience.
Thank you so much, Arvin. And now, Mitzi, what would you like to add to wrap up this discussion?
Sure. Thanks, Jessica. I guess to close off, for Accenture, the thought has always been it's not about what we will do for our clients, but what we will do with them, especially when you work with the big tech clients who are at the forefront of innovation. The partnership has always been that they create the products while we provide the insights from end users and then close that loop so that each version of the product or the service continues to enhance customer experience. And also, just my last parting thoughts is that, the irony of this pandemic is that while we are physically apart, I've never felt closer to my clients and my people than before. And I don't think it's not about overcompensation, right? But because of the, pandemic and, that there's a world out there in crisis, we learned to become more empathetic and better listeners. And when you listen better and pay attention to your clients and your people's needs, it really opens, the floodgates for socially relevant innovation. Like I said, right? It's no longer about just solving for service level agreements, key performance indicators, or even business outcomes for that matter, but also trying to solve real world problems that the pandemic has brought about, as cited by the many examples that we said, in this conversation. And I think that combination of socially impactful impactful, innovation while taking care of our people through, let's say, our wellness programs and just overall care for their physical and mental well-being has been the silver lining of this pandemic.
Thank you, Mitzi. This has been our second roundtable discussion for Thrive Through Change. Make sure to watch out for the next discussion. You can check out Rappler's Brand Wrap section and social media channels to learn more about this series in partnership with Accenture in the Philippines. There are articles, podcasts, and other roundtable discussions on how both individuals and companies can thrive through change as we look toward a brighter future beyond this pandemic. And of course, we would like to thank our panelists, Arvin Yason, Managing Director and Innovation Lead for Accenture Technology in the Philippines, Mitzi Lunan, Managing Director for Accenture Operations in the Philippines, and Winsley Bangit, the Chief Customer Officer of GCash. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I honestly do enjoy hosting your roundtable discussions because I learn so much from every episode as well. And to everyone watching, thank you for joining us here on Rappler. This has been Cheska Liton Calao, and I will see you again for our last roundtable episode.